Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal. And I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Your voice broke, like the feed broke up there for a second. So see what happens.
Never in doubt.
Never in doubt. Lots of close games this year. Some of them that don't have to be. The Oilers had, the Oilers were again pretty dominating. It was a kind of a weirdly boring game for the first couple periods, and the Oilers made a game of it one way or another. The grade A shots were 21-14 for the Oilers, with the subset of 5 alarm shots 10-5 for the Oilers. A pretty dominating performance overall. Over against the Chicago Blackhawks, and they won in overtime, Bruce. They won in overtime. 4-3. So
9-3, and games decided in overtime, and 9-4 if you include that one shootout.
If you think about it, if you did like an all-time, like right now in the NHL, players with the most overtime experience, time on ice in overtime, Leon, Connor definitely would be in the top 10 in the league, if not in the top 5. Like, they're getting very used to that situation, and they're making fewer mistakes, I think, Bruce. A few years ago, they started to have a bad run when they overstayed their welcome on overtime, and they were making mistakes, but they seem to have cured a lot of that. Let's just get right into it, Bruce. 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers. What's your good thing?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the game-winning goal, David.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Do you want to cut to the chase?
I hear
This is how the game was decided after the Oilers blew a 3-1 lead in the third and came within an ace of losing it with 5 seconds left in regulation, which would have been an all-timer of hard-to-swallow defeats. But thankfully, Toivu Teravainen, Oiler killer, shot fluttered over Pickett's glove and hit the crossbar to send it to overtime. And in overtime, Edmonton managed to have a breakaway by Connor McDavid, which did not produce a shot on goal. A 3-on-1 with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Evan Bouchard, which again did not produce a shot on goal. And only after Chicago got a half-decent chance because of some pretty poor coverage, back-checking coverage, did Evan Bouchard jumped on the puck and he fired a stretch pass up to Leon Draisaitl, and the Chicago guy coming off the bench made a play to, I think that would have been a 2-on-1 for McDavid and Draisaitl. He might have been smarter just to let the pass go through, though. The Oilers were executing. And took a too many men on the ice penalty. And that came at 1:18 of overtime, and it took all of 18 seconds for the Oilers' 4-on-3 power play to do what the 5-on-4 power play couldn't do in 6 full minutes of relatively wretched execution. And this was execute. And they executed from winning the face-off and starting a cycle. Bouchard to McDavid. He tried to feed Hyman in front. Defenseman got a skate on it. McDavid recovered the puck in the corner, sent it back to Bouchard. And they basically did the exact same play again. Bouchard again chose to go to his left with the pass to McDavid rather than right to Draisaitl. Nice options to have in a 4-on-3.
You can't go wrong.
And McDavid came into the left circle, and of course the thought was probably on many minds that he was going to go for the cross seamer to Draisaitl. Instead, he sifted really nice pass through to Zach Hyman on the edge of the crease, and Hyman was able to get, probably a 6-iron under it and just get enough air under it to flutter over the pad of the latest Dominic Hasek, who played for the other team that seems to be all we're facing these days. What was this guy's name? Arvid Soderblom. And anyway, he got it over Soderblom's pad, and into the back of the net, and that was the game. And I don't know if you noticed, but the celebration of the win, not just the goal, but of the win, was one of the sourest ones I've seen in a while. Not one of those guys looked happy, even though they just won the hockey game, which I kind of don't take as a good thing, you know. Even as I know they're pissed off with their performance, and they probably should be. At the same time, you won the game. Enjoy, take the 2 points and run.
Well, I don't know. I'm glad I can. They're probably listen. They looked gassed tonight, especially as the
Late,
game went on. And
late
I
in the
think it,
game, yeah.
yeah, they really looked totally gassed. And it didn't help when there's a few turnovers that further gassed them when they were out there on the late goals against. But I wonder what the percentage overall on 4-on-3s is compared to 5-on-3s is. It seems like they're almost as deadly, the 4-on-3
Hmm.
as the 5-on-3. You get a 4-on-3 in overtime, and it just seems like, oh, like you're done.
Probably
So,
going to score.
yeah, I don't know what it is over time, but it's a very dangerous situation, especially against a fast player like McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard. You know, the puck movement of that team, when you just get three other players on the opposition team, and seems like if there's one less, it's a little less confusing for everybody. they they end up scoring. That was a fantastic, nice goal for Zach Hyman. I really liked it. And you know, it's like the one thing I did notice is Chicago had like, if you include their reach and the length of their hockey sticks, they had like 30 feet of defensemen out there in Seth Jones and young Vlasic.
Yeah.
Vlasic's a good player, man.
Yeah,
Did
is
he
he
ever take
ever?
down
I
Hyman?
always see him good.
Yeah,
Always.
they've got a really good player there. It looks like, and Seth Jones is no slouch. But the Oilers were able to pass around it and do their magic and win the game. Bruce, my good thing is, well, I'm going to just go with Draisaitl and Skinner. It's hard to overlook Leon Draisaitl's brilliance. I mean, I was just going to focus on Skinner, but Leon Draisaitl on the attack this year is he's just next level. So he made just like in the first period, he set up Podkolzin behind the net, got on the puck at the side, and then he made a backhand pass across the crease to Skinner, who had three stabs at it, and only the defenseman pawing the puck out of the midair and away from the net prevented a goal there. That was off a Leon pass, but it was just one of many. He was just constantly setting up players with his brilliant passing. He set up Darnell Nurse a couple of times. He set up Arvidsson, and of course he set up Skinner on the goal. Skinner, I think, has been, in terms of his performance, has been playing better in the last month. I think he's been trying to figure out how he can make this team, and he's realized he's got to really up his defensive game. And I think he's doing it. I think he's figuring that out. Hustle's one part of it, and thinking it's another part of it. It's like he's been in the NHL like for a long time. He's been in the NHL for what, 13, 14 years now. And I don't know if he's ever been a good defensive player. I can't
15,
speak to it.
15.
15 years. I can't speak to his time in Buffalo. But he's never been on a very successful team. And those teams are generally marked by weak defensive play, as we saw during the Decade of Darkness. It was just one thing after another with that. And when he in the first while with the Oilers, he was plagued by weak defensive play. It is coming on, and he has been doing better. And he got rewarded today. He got put to the second line with Leon Draisaitl. And he had a disastrous spell earlier in the year playing with Connor McDavid on the top line, where I think that line was 0 for 7 on goals. But tonight,
1-4-7 against in 51 minutes is
there you
what
go.
sticks in my
Are
mind.
you sure they even got the 1-4? I thought it was
I got
0, but
one.
anyway. Um,
7 against in 51 minutes.
Tonight he was in on 5 grade A shots, Bruce. 5 grade A shots. He and he made not one mistake on a goal against. He got a goal and an assist. His goal was really nice. Again, Draisaitl made a great pass. Podkolzin kind of hunted down the puck, and I think he was in on that one, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I'm thinking of a different play. Anyway, he went to Draisaitl. Draisaitl made a brilliant pass, and Skinner made just as fine a move. It was like a goal scorer's move. Quick move to your backhand, up over the goalie. Great, fantastic goal by Jeff Skinner, and that was the goal that made it 2-1 for the Oilers early in the third period. And there's some nice passing by Bouchard, found Klingberg. It's interesting. Klingberg made that interesting breakout where he goes to the middle of the ice, up the center of the ice, and makes himself a target in the middle of the ice. And I don't know if I've seen this kind of breakout from an Oilers defenseman before, but and I didn't, when I first saw it, I thought, what the hell is he doing? But it's a great way. You get that pass in the middle of the ice, and it's a great way to, if forwards are coming up with you, you can pass one way or the other to a breaking forward, and he did that on this play, and they broke in there. We have Janmark being involved in the goal? Was it Janmark who got it? Did we have that right, Bruce? I wonder. I thought it was Podkolzin anyway. He got it in, and eventually it went to Skinner.
It was
Draisaitl and
Colson who got the assist.
All right. Well, we have this incorrect then. I'll just change it on our score sheet. We have 13 in our coding.
That's on the
Skinner goal.
Yeah, it was Podkolzin.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, we have that incorrect. I probably had that incorrect.
Janmark was involved in the Arvidsson
previous goal, which was a really nice goal too.
Right.
Anyway, great five-man passing play. Great finish by Jeff Skinner, and he'll probably get another chance playing with Leon Draisaitl. So, you know, the
things wrong there, David. We have Arvidsson's number for the goal, and I'm changing it to Skinner as we speak.
What happened there? Maybe something got transposed.
Yeah. Anyway, fixed now. And this was definitely, the 5 men that were on the ice were all involved. It was a 5-way passing play.
Oh, yeah. We must have got transposed, or I don't know. We have these documents that you can actually, Bruce links to them in his player grades, and you can see the coding that we do on the on our video review of all the grade A shots in the game. And that's what we're discussing now, is how we screwed it up. It's interesting. Speaking of screw ups, Bruce, the official scorer in this game deserves an F. We both follow the official scoring, and you can see where the shots come from and if they're on net. They had about 4 or 5 grade A shots in the first period that didn't hit the net, or came from behind the net. Like it was just they're starting to count all these shots kind of from behind the net.
They were scored as tips. Well, they do. The NHL counts those now.
They shouldn't. They should not count.
They're shots. Guys are trying to bounce them in off the goalie. Yeah, so they're giving the goalies credit if they keep them out. Because otherwise, if it bounces off them and in, they got charged. And if they manage to keep it from going in, they got no credit. So they changed it. It was a league decision.
I think it's the wrong decision. If you're it's going to screw up natural stat trick for sure, because you're getting all these shots, mediocre shots that are never going to go in. And they're if you're just looking from 6 feet away, looks like a 5-alarm shot by natural stats tricks way of looking at it. And they're ranking the players on this for these mediocre nothing shots. Anyway, and then there was all these tip shots that weren't actually tipped, that didn't even hit the net. So the official scorer did very poorly today. What's your bad thing, Bruce?
Yeah, F for far out, man. That official scorer, I said to you in the game thing, he might be on psychedelics of some sort, because he was seeing stuff that just wasn't happening. Deflected shots on net when they were...
Mainly stuff in favor of Chicago, Bruce, I might add.
Well, they had...
Not always, but mainly.
They had credited for a few shots that were pretty suspect, let's put it that way.
Yeah, they were getting the hometown scoring, for what it's worth.
My bad thing is the 1-1 in the last 6 seconds of the second period. They scored at 1954 now. And Edmonton mostly had the puck down in Chicago end, but Chicago came out breaking on the most routine 3-on-3s that you could imagine. Just 3 guys up, 3 guys back. No, puck out on the boards, no real danger until Kasperi Kapanen decided this would be a real nice time to take a nap. And that's what he did while his man just skated right past him to the edge of the crease. And of course, the Chicago wingers saw the opportunity and whipped the pass in. My take on the replays that I watched, which I may need to watch a couple more in slow-mo and stuff, I thought Kapanen, sort of in desperation, knowing he was beaten, flung his stick out and tipped it in his own net past Pickard. Although they did give credit for the goal to Reichel from Chicago. What the heck's his first name? Lucas Reichel from Chicago, who was the guy that skated right past Arvidsson. And I just thought it was negligence of the highest order. I was not happy with Kasperi Kapanen in that moment because he had one job. I mean, it's not like they're going to turn the puck over and go the other way. There's 5 seconds on the clock. You just got to see it out, and you just got to take your man, take him to the net, take his stick, do whatever. And he just didn't do it. He just didn't do it. And I honestly thought he might not play in the third period. And
I
I
was
still
surprised. Yeah.
honestly think he might not play next game because I don't think Coach Chris Knobloch will take very kindly to negligent coverage like that. I mean, there was other mistakes that were made in the game, but this was a guy, he had a basic fundamental task, stick to his man, and he just stopped skating and let the guy go to the net.
And he's
And
a
that's
bottom
just
line
not
player.
good enough for a bottom line player. He scores a little bit, like he does good stuff from time to time, but he just can't be having that happen. Just can't happen. And it happened. And instead of the Oilers nursing a 1-0 lead, like they did last night into the third, the lead was gone because one guy fell asleep. And, on the scoring play, there were other mistakes that happened throughout this game, this very sloppy hockey game. But that was a goal costing error. And I just thought it was, don't quite want to say lazy. On the other hand, negligent is kind of a damning term, isn't it? So we'll just stick with that.
Just checking if Lucas Reichel is. Remember, there's a Flames player. I think his name was
Warren.
Robert Reichel.
Robert Reichel. He was a Czech.
But isn't Lucas Reichel?
There was a Warren Reichel as well, but maybe Warren Reichel was Rychel. There's a few
His
of these.
nephew. It's his nephew. Lucas Reichel is his nephew of
Robert
Robert
Reichel's?
Reichel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Lucas Reichel's from Germany and
Oh,
Robert
okay.
Reichel's from Czech. But there's
Yeah,
lots of
yeah.
Germans in Czechoslovakia, right? As we know in the Sudetenland from a little World War II history
Yeah.
there. Bruce Kapanen is a fourth line hockey player.
Might
He
be
is in the
fifth line
last
now.
minute of a period, and he has one job.
Yeah.
Period. Like always, don't get scored on. And if you do, make sure it's not your guy. Like whatever you do, you're a fourth line hockey player. I was shocked actually to see him in the third period. I kind of like Knobloch's general style. He doesn't bench a lot of players, and he's not afraid to bench the big guys now and then, short periods of time. So it's much more effective to bench a big name player, I think, than Kasperi Kapanen in terms of sending any kind of message. Kapanen kind of expects it. So the Oilers were a very tired team, so I could see why
Yes,
he's
they
thinking,
were.
okay, let's
We
just
need
play four
all
lines.
all
We need all
hands
hands
on
on
deck.
deck. And it
Who
worked
are we
because
going
they
to
came out
double
and they
shift?
scored. They came out and they scored 2 goals before they ran out of gas. And but my bad thing was one of the earlier indications of running out of gas. They're up 2-1 at this point, and Evan Bouchard's breaking the puck out, and he makes a lazy, what looks like a lazy turnover, and it was a bad turnover. It was a bad play, and there was an amazing save by the pick, stuck out his leg and picked off that shot by Patrick Maroon at the side of the net. Fantastic save.
0 breakaway.
Fantastic save by Calvin Pickard to save Evan Bouchard from further disgrace and ignominy. But it's the kind of play that I think his critics, and we've talked about this before, but I think both the critics and the supporters of Evan Bouchard have a really good point. And the really good point of the critics is he makes a lot of really bad mistakes in his own zone that lead to the highest grade of scoring chances against. And it's this kind of play that inflames the anti-Bouchard crowd. Like it just gives them, it's raw meat for them. They can say, here he goes again. He did it again. But it's important to remember, and there are some interesting stats out from Mark Kelly from NHL.com. He's an analyst, and he's privy to all kinds of proprietary stats that normal fans can't get. and he pointed out, in terms of possession of the puck in the NHL, Evan Bouchard has the fourth highest possession totals in the entire NHL. Fourth highest. There's only like three other guys ahead of him. He didn't name who they were. More than that, though, if you compare possession time to turnovers, those two stats, he's the fifth best guy for limiting turnovers based on possession time. So he has the puck a lot. And yes, he makes some egregious mistakes. And this was one of them tonight. But those mistakes overshadow, I think, just how fantastic he is moving and passing the puck. And he's just makes endless really good smart passes with the puck, breakout passes under pressure. The team counts on him and he delivers. Every now and then there's going to be an ugly play like this, and this year there has been more of them. I think there's been a higher rate of them, but it's just one of those things. He's not going to be able to cut that out of his game. That is his game, puck possession. And when you have the puck that much, mistakes will happen. And as long as people, I would say, don't rate the good against the bad, they'll have a bad opinion of Bouchard. But if you rate the good against the bad, you'll have a good opinion because you'll see in total there's far more good.
I didn't see that as a lazy pass, David, but it sure went sideways. I saw what he was trying to do. He was trying to slip the puck through to
Arvidsson, yeah.
who was coming up the zone, and it was a good short pass, except for one little problem. It was, intercepted. He mistimed it by an eighth of a second or whatever. The guy cut in and took it off. I mean, the play was trying to make seemed to be there until it wasn't. And the problem was that there was nobody behind him at all. I mean, the problem was he gave the puck away. Let's start there. But the other problem was there was nobody behind him. And when the guy chipped the puck through, it was two guys on Pickard. And as you say, Pickard came up with a huge save. The game was still 1-1 at this time. And it was
2-1.
Within.
It was two,
oh, yeah. They scored early in the third.
Yeah.
That's right. That would have tied it. And then a minute later, the Oilers made it 3-1, and you thought, now they're home and cooled out. Well, yeah, not quite. They don't seem to know what home and cooled out is anymore. It's like every game is a life and death struggle. And even against lowly Chicago Blackhawks, they can't seem to get any clean air, especially in that barn.
I take your point about the word lazy, Bruce. I think that's not the best word. I think what I'm trying to say is it's a sleepy pass. It's a pass like this team was gassed, and I think he wasn't mentally sharp on it. Was a difficult pass to make, and if you're sharp, you don't even try that one. Now he will try passes other people don't make because he's such a fantastic passer, and often they'll succeed. Yeah. But I think if he had been sharper, he wouldn't have, and not so gassed as the whole team was. And then we saw it later, Bruce, on the power play goal to make it 3-2. Ekholm under pressure a couple times failed to ice it. And that meant that very tired players, Nugent Hopkins and Janmark, were left out there, and they were almost immobile by the time that the cross-seam pass
was leaning on his stick in front of the net.
And then
it's never a good sign.
Unless you're Ken Dryden. And then there was the third goal against the tying goal too. Nurse was gassed, and certainly by the end he was gassed because he kept turning the puck over, and Emerson was out there too. Both of them couldn't. They were just a little slow. They weren't sharp, and then it just kept getting worse, and they slowed down more. And by the end, Nurse was just standing there like dead as the puck went in the net, like out of the play. And this was a very tired team tonight, and they're lucky they got the power play in overtime because I don't know if they would have won it if they had just kept playing the game out, because maybe those Blackhawks would have had a little bit more life.
Yeah. Well, on that 3-3, Nurse had the puck, and he was coming out of Edmonton zone. He got to the blue line, and this was almost a goal scored at
346.
3:46. Well, this was like 4:15. It was like 30 seconds before the goal.
Yeah.
And they'd already been out there for a while. And he got all the way to the blue line. He thought, nope, I'm going to turn back with it and set the play up again. And he turned back with it. And then he got swarmed. And some trouble happened. And then he got it to Emberson and looked like Emberson was coming away with the puck in the face-off circle on his side, right side. And he was too slow to move the puck, and he got swarmed from behind, and the puck never got out.
Yeah.
And then it went to the sidewall, and again they couldn't get the puck over the blue line. And I think anyway, it was a mess, and it was. I thought too many times in this game, Oilers defensemen turned back into their own zone and then lost the puck. I know Klingberg did it as well. And there was, if you're going to make that kind of decision, you need to be pretty sure-handed with the puck. And if you're going to take it back, make the crisp pass and walk it out on the other side, fine. You just see that all the time. But here, there was plays where they needed to be, short pass to center and get it to the end wall and make the change. And if you make the change after a 25-second shift, so much the better at that point, because they were clearly running on fumes.
Yeah, they really were. First, and those guys are out there, like, first their lungs are on fire because they're just so tired. Then their legs turn to cement, and then their minds turn to mush.
Yeah.
And it's over.
Not necessarily in that order, judging on the evidence.
All right, Bruce, what's your number?
Yeah, my number is 81. That is the number of points tallied so far this year by NHL scoring leader Leon Draisaitl. 54 games played, 38 goals, also league leading, 43 assists, 81 points, plus 27. So he's averaging 1.5 points a game. Again, remember he did that for the whole season. Remember the Silo season in 21, 56 games. He had 84 points. Finished second, lost the scoring title to McDavid by 21 points. So we no longer have McDavid doing that where he separates from the pack. And in fact, at the moment, it's been Draisaitl working his way up the pack and finally overtaken McKinnon, who was shut out with his whole team in Vancouver last night. He's locked on 80 points, and without Rantanen, it's easy to anticipate that McKinnon's production rates might slide a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was out in front with a fair little lead there not that long ago, and now here he is in second place with 80 points in 55 games. So good on you, Draisaitl. I didn't think he was necessarily on top of his game tonight, but he did, made a beautiful pass to Skinner for the goal. He made a beautiful pass to Skinner for the 3-whack chance. He made a beautiful pass to Nurse for Soderblom. Made a great sliding, almost diving blocker save off a Nurse. He made 2 really strong defensive hard back checks to take away what looked like odd man rushes from Chicago. And this was on a night where, I don't know that Leon was really feeling it. In this game, he and McDavid, after the second period, neither of them had so much as attempted a shot. And in the third, of course, they brought it a little more, and then ultimately Leon set up this second goal, scored the third, and then McDavid set up the fourth. But anyway, Leon leading the league in scoring just at the cusp of the break. He may or may not be there when they break, but it's also realistic to think he may be there at the end of the season. Like he just has been bringing and scoring consistently all year long. This was his 18th consecutive game against Chicago with at least 1 point, which is the most of any player against any opponent in terms of a consecutive game streak.
This isn't my number, but Darnell Nurse led the Oilers with 10 shot attempts, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Six made the net.
He did a lot of things in this game. Not all good, but he did do a lot of things.
It was a high event
Some of
night
them
for
good.
Darnell. Some of them were really good. My numbers are 12 and 4. Bruce, remember, we can all remember November, December, when the Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights seemed so far away from the Oilers. We were just glad they, fought their way into a playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then gradually, they overtook the Kings. And then gradually, they've overtaken Vegas. And once you overtake a team, you kind of forget about them a little bit. Well, the Oilers are now 4 points in the same number of games. They're 4 points ahead of Vegas. And they've got 4 games in LA has 4 games in hand on the Oilers, but the Oilers are 12 points ahead of the Kings. So in the last 10
games,
all
those games, they'll still be far behind.
Exactly, they'd be tied with Vegas. In the last 10 games, LA has 3 wins. In the last 10 games, Vegas has 2 wins. And somehow the Oilers have 6 wins. They've been getting them by the skin of their teeth often, Bruce, but they've figured out a way to do it, and they've been, winning. They're not playing the murderer's row of NHL teams right now, but they're beating them, 6 out of 10 times. So it's actually they got a loser point there. So they 6 out of 9 times with 1 loser point in the last 10 games. So good for the Oilers. They are. It's just we all know how important it is for them to finish first in the division. We've seen this movie a number of times. I think it will make a difference if they can do it. So they're doing it. I like it.
Yeah, well, Vegas, they're now 3-8-3 in their last 14 games. They've won just 3 out of 14. And so that's an extended bad spell for them. And every team has them. The Oilers' problem this year was that they had their one and only 3-game losing streak in the first 3 games of the season. And it took a while to dig out from that. And of course, oil country can be a pretty paranoid place at times. And after last year's trials and tribulations in the first part of the season, even a bad week seemed like a disaster. But they've basically been winning since then. And they went the Oilers. That the column you've talked about, the last 10 games, team's record in the last 10. The Oilers had either a 7 or an 8 in that column from December the 9th all the way through to when they lost to Toronto on Saturday. What was that? February 1st.
Wow.
So for like almost 8 weeks, the Oilers had, they'd always won at least 7 of their prior 10 games, and a couple times they got it up to 8. And it was like they'd lose a game and then they'd win 3 in a row. And they had a number. They've never won more than 5 in a row, but they have a ton of win streaks of 3-4 games. And so they've done very well at avoiding any kind of lengthy slump. And they're now in a kind of a dry spell where they played 4 straight games without outright beating anyone. Took 3 games to overtime, lost 1 in the shootout, won the other 2 in the 5-minute period. And of course, they lost that 4-3 game against Toronto where they did score a tying goal and had it come off the board. And then they came up very close to again. So, they're in every game right to the end. And
so they're 7 points back from Winnipeg. Winnipeg has 79 points. The Oilers have a game in hand. Okay. So credit to the Winnipeg Jets. That is a very smart, disciplined hockey team, veteran hockey team, and they're playing maximum capability. It'll be a chore to catch them, Bruce, but it's not impossible.
Currently on their 3rd 7+ game winning streak of the season.
Wow.
Only 5 teams have done that since the in the Cap era.
Might be seeing them in the
Saw the list
playoffs.
last night. None of them won the Stanley Cup either. Was
Good.
sort of the punchline from that list that was on one of the sports channels last night.
All right. Next game is.
Next game is Friday against Colorado Avalanche, third in 4 days in 3 different cities. So the kind some pundits call a schedule loss, and the Oilers will be hard pressed to get their legs back. The good news is that Colorado themselves play in Calgary tomorrow night.
Oh, good.
So for them, it'll be a back-to-back, and also their third and 4 games in
So
3
it's
different
even.
cities. So it's a good chance it's going to be a pretty ugly game. And I have no idea why they're not playing it on Saturday on Hockey Night in Canada against Colorado as opposed to pushing it up to Friday. But then after Friday, the Oilers have 14 days without a game, and they don't play again until February 22nd. So,
Fascinating.
and then they pick it up after the break with a 5-game road trip to Philadelphia, which is all right. And then the last 4, I can't remember the exact order, but it's Washington, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Carolina. Brutal road trip.
Yeah.
So they'll have fresher legs by then, but I guess so will most of the teams. But so that'll be a real trying stretch for them. But thankfully, they emerged from this road trip with 2 wins, both kind of by the skin of their teeth, but they give the same 2 points for overtime wins in this league that they give for regulation wins, thanks to the brilliance of their cockamamie point system. But for the Oilers, it works to their advantage because they are, they're killers in overtime. They're 9-3.
Alrighty. I just want to end by saying thumbs up to the crowds in both St. Louis and Chicago not booing the Canadian national anthem. I think that would have been. I'm not a big fan of the national anthems at the games. Period. I don't know why they're there, honestly, but I just don't. I'm not for booing them either. Just endure them and let's get to the game. So I liked it though that they didn't do that. I thought that would have been. I thought it was classy not to.
If
So
they'd have booed the guy in Chicago, I don't know what would have happened. Hell might have
man, that guy
frozen
can
over. That guy
sing.
is pretty famous.
Is he amazing?
Yeah.
It's funny because when you hear the national anthem, so often it's mediocre,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's just, but when you can hear someone who can really sing it, it is amazing, honestly. It just, it's thrilling. I think Jack Michael said it's one of the great experiences in sports is hearing, I think his name is Frank Cornelius, sing the
Mhm.
national anthem. Man, that guy,
So
he
they've been raving
goes.
about that guy for years,
Yeah,
and he
how
brings it every single time.
good for him. There's a couple
So,
others. I think one of them in New York is really good too.
mhm.
So, all right, Bruce.
Don't
Th-
mention the one in LA.
There's all these different ones in LA and
Oh,
they keep changing.
yeah.
All right. Thanks for
Well,
talking
she
tonight.
keeps changing pitch.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I can't sing, so I'm not one to criticize. All right. Thank you, Bruce. Good.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between time, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.